What started as a dreary day in Brazelton, Georgia, the sky now, though, clearing. Temperatures nice and cool, and track workers making sure that this surface at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is ready to race on. VP Racing SportsCar Challenge coming your way, round 11 of 12 for the 2023 season. We talk about Road Atlanta, one of those iconic racetracks that every driver wants to come to. It has everything in the world that will challenge you. It's got elevation, high speed, you name it. Turn one, blisteringly quick, about 152 miles an hour in an LMP3 car up the hill. Turn 3, turn 4, down through the S's, then down to 6, and really one of the most important corners on the racetrack, turn 7, which leads you down that long back straightaway. Heavy braking, good passing opportunities into turn 10. We'll see a lot of action there today between the two different classes. Then up the hill, then down the dive through turn 12, flat out to the start-finish line. The checker flag will hopefully bring you the victory here in the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. Welcome in, everyone. Brian Till along with Jeremy Shaw. Jeremy, season winding down, championships on the line. No better place to settle it than right here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
What a fabulous racetrack this is. 2.54 miles, fast and hopefully not furious, but I think it should be exciting. We saw some exciting action in qualifying this morning. We've got these two classes of cars, the LMP3 prototype cars and then the GSX cars, regular GT4 specification cars, and it's a tight field. And we saw a really good qualifying run yesterday. Excuse me, earlier on this morning. We're going to have 23 cars in this field, I think. We run down them, starting from the back. It's Adam Adelson in a Porsche in car number 46. In row 11 of the grid is Frank Depew in car number 72. That's a Chevrolet, alongside Billy Griffin in one of two Ford Core Motorsports Ford Mustangs. Row 10, Brady Berman in number 82 Aston Martin, alongside Will Wux in a BGB Porsche, car number 17. Row 9, Adam Thomas making his debut this weekend in car number 89 for Split Decision Motorsports in the BMW. Scott Blind in an Archangel Aston Martin will start at car number 45 from the 18th position. Row 8, Vin Barletta in car number 96 and Patrick Wilmot in car number 88. Angus Rogers in car number 5 alongside Gregory Learfouge, who was a little bit farther back than we expected on the grid in GSX this morning in the BMW, car number 19. He'll be start 5th fastest in GSX. Second row of the grid for GSX is Tim Probert in car number 65 in the Mercedes, alongside the championship leader Francis Seldorf, who will start 3rd in car number 95 to turn the Motorsport BMW. The front row of the grid, however, in GSX, Moise Uretsky in the accelerating performance Porsche in car number 44. The pole sitter is a guy who is chasing Seldorf for the championship. That'll be Sebastian Carrazzo in car number 27. We've got 8 LMP3 cars after an off in qualifying this morning. 47 Motorsports number 99 car, Courtney Crone. She will start last on the field of LMP3 cars alongside Adrian Kunzel in car number 54 for MLT Motorsports. Row 3 is John Brownson, the veteran in car number 47 for 47 Motorsports. Alongside him, one of the younger drivers, Alex Kirby in car number 7 for Performance Tech Motorsports. Front 2 rows of the grid, there's a Duquesne and a Ligier chassis alongside each other on each of the front 2 rows. Starting 4th with Brian Cenas in the Forte Racing powered by US Racetronics Ligier, alongside the guy who's going for the championship, currently 2nd in points, that's Dan Goldberg in car number 73, the JDC Motorsports Duquesne. The front row of the grid, there's a championship leader, Joy Garg for Junior 3 Racing in the Ligier, car number 3. But on the pole, what a debut for the youngster, 21-year-old, 3rd generation driver for Remstar Racing in Duquesne, car number 87. It's Jagger Jones.
Yeah, impressive run by Jagger Jones. I was just talking to him. There was that red flag that you mentioned for Courtney Crone. And Jagger said, I couldn't believe how much the racetrack changed when we got back out. Lights out on the BMW pace car. Expect to go green this time by as tires being warmed up. And you see the 87 there. Jagger Jones, his first start in a prototype of any type. This is going to be interesting, and you think about the championship implications here. Joy Garg outside the front row needs to know that he's got a rookie beside him, but just behind that rookie is Dan Goldberg, who's only a couple of 100 points back. He's still very much alive in this championship, only 90 points back, I should say, to Joy Garg. So the question is, at the start here, what can Goldberg do? Can he use that 87 to sneak in front of the number 3 as they head up that climb to turn 2. We're about to find out. Lights out on the safety car, as I said. He dives to pit road. Now it's up to these drivers to maintain that column formation until they go across the line. Man, Jagger on it early, and here's the deal. No one maintained the column formation. No one. What is race control going to say about this in the LMP3 category?
That's going to be an interesting call. They're going to be busy up in race control for the next couple of minutes deciding what to do there, because as you say, it was kind of single file as they came through turn 12 to take the green flag on this race, and you're supposed to be side-by-side formation until you cross the start-finish line. So that's going to be interesting. But that was a great start by young Jagger Jones. He was on the case right from the start. He's taken the lead, and he slots into the first position ahead of the championship leader, Bijoy Garg.
Into turn 6, Jagger Jones in that beautiful black number 87. The Duquesne chassis leads there as race control will review the start and try to get an idea of what they're going to do there. Message on the timing screen, start is indeed under review. Remember, 2 different classes. Looking to the back of the prototypes there, you saw the blue Porsche, Sebastian Carrazzo. When we talk about the championship implications there, we talk about under review. This is why these columns of cars need to stay columns of cars. That's columns, plural, too, until after the line. Jones pulls the trigger early, and Bijoy Garg drops in directly behind him.
Yeah.
And then everybody else goes single file.
Jones did exactly what he's supposed to do. He kept room on the outside for the outside front row starter to be there. He wasn't there. Instead, he tucked it behind. That could well be a penalty for Bijoy Garg. By the letter of the rules, it should be a penalty for Bijoy Garg. It wasn't as if Jagger Jones took the inside line and tracked out to the outside. No. He did it absolutely perfectly. For the guy making his first start in a sports car, that was a great start by Jagger Jones. But he's lost that lead.
He's lost the lead. Bijoy Garg now to the point in the number 3, the Ligier chassis. We've got the Duquesne chassis right behind him, and good battles going on in the GSX category. That's the battle. Looks like, I think, for 5th and 6th, Angus Rogers, Patrick Wilmot. Wilmot now aboard a new BMW, had been racing the older BMW. Now has moved to the newer model, and things really getting heated up early here in VP Racing Sports Car Challenge.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what happened there to Jagger Jones on that second lap. I think it's probably while we were watching the replay of the start, but he's going to try and put his head down now and get that lead back again. It's a replay. No, the pass has already taken place there, so he must have presumably slid wide in turn 1, Jagger Jones.
So Jagger with a not quite settled race car underneath him just yet, and that's probably how Bijoy Garg gets by him. Now, one of the things that I was just talking about Bijoy about before the start of the race was his racecraft. We've talked about this a lot, Jeremy. It just seems to have improved so much over the years, and he said this multi-class racing provides me so much more education than the open wheel racing I'm doing, where I don't have as many passes. There's not as much competition going on lap to lap to lap, and they're really using this to improve his racecraft, and it's done just that. Speaking of racecraft, you need it right now in GSX.
Yeah, and look, conditions this morning were damp. I mean, the track the track was wet. It was declared
I was going to say,
a wet session.
Damp.
Now it's fully dry, so completely different conditions for these cars and for the drivers to get used to in the early stages of this race. And that maybe that was what caught out Jagger Jones on that second lap, but it certainly didn't catch out Sebastian Carrazzo, because he's leapt into the lead in that Porsche in car number 27, that Kelly Moss Porsche, and he wants to maintain that position and put himself perhaps in a position to take the championship. The good news for Carrazzo is he does have one other car in between himself and the championship leader. There is that battle as they head along the main straight here. Number 44 car, Moisey Uretsky, in second position ahead of the championship leader, Francis Seldorf, in that Turner Motorsport BMW.
And really, the big help is not just the car that's there, Jeremy, in second place in GSX, the 44. They head into turns 10A and 10B. It's the fact that Moisey Uretsky is on board another Porsche, and you know that he wants to help Porsche in a manufacturer's championship as well. So we've got that fight going on. And Seldorf needs to get by. You look at the championship right now, he leads it by 230 markers over Carrazzo. Carrazzo doing everything he needs to do right now He needs to have good finishes in both of these races. He needs to finish in front of the 95. That's what's happening right now. But man, you see the speed coming in different places for these two drivers. The Porsche and the BMW definitely have their strengths in some areas of the racetrack, weaknesses in others.
They do indeed, and look at the difference. I mean, that BMW looks so much bigger than the Porsche as they head through the S's there and up in through turn 5. But Moisey-Retzky, he's holding on to that position right now. It's a Porsche 1-2 at the moment. And then behind Francis Seldorf, the orange and blue car, that is Gregory Learfouge.
Now, I've never seen this on the timing screen. The P3 field, the entire P3 field, penalty, false start, improper starting protocol warning. So they've given them a warning.
Wow.
That's their penalty for an improper start. They may have looked at it and said, we're going to have to drive everybody through, and then we're going to have a big mess when you look at it. So the entire P3 field has been warned about that start.
I mean, Jagger Jones did nothing wrong. I mean, he just got on the throttle and went, and it was the guy behind him that had the guys behind him that had the problem. So I think for Dan Goldberg did nothing wrong either. He was on the inside line there. I think Bejoy sort of counted himself lucky there.
I think everybody on the inside line can say, hey, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Like my children used to say. Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. Not me, Gov.
Back to GSX, Carrazzo into turn 1, followed by the Porsche several car lengths back of Uretsky, then Francis Seldorf, then Gregory Learfouge. We talked about qualifying for Learfouge. Typically, we see him just a little further up. He's been very, very strong. I talked to him earlier, and he said, what we're really trying to do is make sure that we have a good car for Michelin Pilot Challenge. And I asked him about the championship and where he sees that championship. And he said, I see that I'm not in it.
Yes.
And yes, if I had qualified on pole, the goal would have been to check out, but I don't want to be involved in it and affect somebody else's championship needlessly. So I'm going to let those guys race.
Here's Seldorf looking to the inside at turn 6. Uretsky, no. He says he's maintains his lead through there. But look, looming in their mirrors is Gregory Learfouge in that orange and blue BMW, and right behind him too is Patrick Wilmot having his first run in a G82, a new specification BMW GT4. That split decision motorsports grey and blue car in the 5th position.
Talk about manufacturers championships being on the line as well. BMW leads it right now in GSX over Porsche. Pretty handy lead there, but you got to wonder now if Gregory Learfouge, being a BMW driver, might say, hey, I'm not in the championship, but if we line these 3 BMWs up, we may be able to get by this Porsche and score some more points in this manufacturer's championship. He may want to get involved in it as far as helping BMWs move to the front.
Yeah, good point, certainly. And for Learfouge, I mean, he was uncharacteristically far down the grid in qualifying. It was a wet session, and Stephen Cameron, the teammate, decided to go out on a scrubbed older set of wet weather tires, thinking that as the track dried out toward the end of that session, the plan was it would come into its own. Well, it didn't dry out and it didn't come into his own, and Learfouge struggled, but he's showing good pace now, as already the LMP3 cars at the front of the field. Bejoy Garg is finding slower traffic here, just getting past the Chevrolet Camaro there of Frank Depew.
And this is that experience, that race experience that we were talking about earlier. In multi-class racing, just because you can catch somebody doesn't mean you necessarily should right now at this point. For these drivers in the prototypes coming up on the slower traffic, especially in places like turn 5, turn 12, if you realize that your speed is going to put you on their bumper right at the apex of the corner, you're better off to check up just before you get there so you can get the run through the corner and get that run down the next straightaway. And that's, I think, what Bejoy Garg has learned throughout the year. And now I'm looking at Jagger Jones kind of closing this gap back. I think his 87 has begun to come alive a little bit, but you've got to really judge the closing distance to make sure you can take advantage of the speed differential that you do have and not get checked up in the middle of the corners.
Yeah, and that's the key here. That's what Jagger Jones is getting used to. He's never driven in a multi-car class race before. All of his racing, and there's a lot of it over the years. He started karting at the age of 9. He was driving stock cars on short tracks at the age of 15, 16. The last couple of years, he's first of all in USF 2000 in open wheel cars. This year in Indy Next. for the first time. They've all been single-class cars, so races. This is something very, very new for Jagger Jones. It's going to be a steep learning curve for him.
Well, the good thing for Jagger right now is that he's got Garg in front of him, kind of leading the way, almost like a blocker, getting you through the line. Now, Jones makes a move in turn 6, slides through, and again, one of those holes that got open by Garg, and he takes advantage of another one coming off of turn 7, slicing and dicing through traffic right now, our LMP3 leaders are.
Yeah, but Jagger Jones there made a good run through that traffic. He's right on Bijoy Garg's tail now as they head towards turn 10 for the 8th time in this race, 45-minute race. We've got just over 10 minutes gone already. Bijoy Garg there feeling the need to defend that inside position to make sure there's no way through for Jagger Jones.
Already they've worked through and into the top 5 in GSX, our LMP3 and overall leaders have. And now Jones closing down, inching ever closer. I think both the handling of his Duquesne has come alive and the traffic has brought Garg back to him.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of confidence right now as Jagger Jones. He's made his way through there, and another knot of cars coming up ahead of them. That's the battle, I think, from second. Well, these are pretty much the leaders, second, third, fourth, fifth in the GSX category, and the LMP3 leaders are right behind them and making their move as they come out of turn 5.
Round 11 of the 2023 VP Racing Sports Car Challenge season underway at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Things heating up. The LMP3 leaders trying to work through GSX. And it's not just GSX, it's the GSX leaders now working past second. Jagger Jones aboard the black number 87, giving Bijoy Garg and the number 3, that white and red number 3 just in front. He is not letting him get away, and traffic having something to do with that. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you. Jones with a charge into the braking zone, on the brakes hard. These two different chassis, they have come so much closer together, and to me it looks like Jones has the better car underneath him right now.
Bijoy Garg, he's looking too much in his mirrors right now. He's just being more defensive rather than focusing on what's ahead of him. He's just getting defensive. He's taking tighter lines into the corner. He's indecision there from Bijoy Garg. Do I go past the GSX class leader or do I back off? The last minute he decides he has to go through because the LMP3 car's a lot faster through turn 1 than the GSX leading Porsche.
And here's the other thing that Bijoy Garg needs to keep in mind. Jagger Jones has absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
how hard are you going to race a guy like that?
No kidding. I mean, he's got one goal this weekend, Jagger Jones, to win both races. Start from the pole, win both races. Goal 1 has been achieved. He got the pole this morning, but he's lost that lead. He's in second position right now, but he's certainly got a quick car. But interestingly, the lap times, it's costing him more than 3 seconds per lap as they negotiated those slower GSX cars.
Full course yellow. Full course yellow, 32 minutes to go in round 11 of VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. A car in the barrier, we understand, in turn 4 is what timing and scoring is telling me. And with the shot that we have there it is, coming through the S's.
Oops.
That's just at the entry to the S's, and I cannot see which car it is. I can't even see what kind of car it is. From the flashers, I would think it's a GSX car.
Yeah, I would presume so, but that's a big impact there. Coming down the hill there, carrying a lot of speed down there. It is. That was second place. And that was Dan Goldberg, I believe, that got into him as they were working their way through. Just the hip check there as they headed down into the S's. That first tire bundle doing what it should do. With all the banding that's on it, it absorbs a massive amount of energy that's good for the driver and the car, and then it takes that energy and moves it into the next tire wall. That was a scary incident.
Top of the screen, see the gray prototype dives down inside. Uretsky just doesn't see him coming, nerfs him off, boom, into the first tire wall, which really absorbs a lot of that energy, and that is good news for the driver, Uretsky, but it is not good news in the fact that Day done there. Big impact on the way down to turn 5.
Yeah, and look here, the S's here, I mean, it's notorious how dangerous it is going down that section of track. We've seen so many instances over the years, and in multi-class racing, it's particularly tricky because the LMP3 cars are a lot faster than the GSX cars, but the track there, you go from the left to the right to the left to the right, and it's even when you're passing cars in much slower classes, you've got to know that the guy who you are passing knows you're there, and it was quite apparent there that Moise Uretsky did not realise that Dan Goldberg was looking to pass him on the inside.
And this is where your spotters come into play. Everybody needs to have spotters up there, especially in multi-class racing. But the other thing that these drivers are told quite often in the driver briefing, just because you're driving a faster class car does not give you the right to dive down inside. Anybody driving a GT-based car down through the S's here is at the limit. They can't just disappear and get out of the way. But at the same point in time, you've got to have some understanding of where traffic is. We'll see how race control views this incident, and they will have much, much better views than we have, and they'll look at it and determine if there'll be any type of penalty handed down. So Moise Uretsky out of the car, sitting on the wall now. He's climbed out, looks winded, but he's climbing out on his own as the car was pinned up against the tire wall. And I don't care if the car is damaged. What I care about is that right there, and that's the scene of the driver climbing out, standing up on the wall on his own, and now climbing down to the AMR safety team that's there on site.
Yeah, that was a big impact. I mean, he's probably doing better part of 100 miles an hour down there through the S's, and he certainly wouldn't have expected anybody to be making a pass at that point in the race. So he just come out of turn 3 there, and I mean, it happened in the blink of an eye for Moise Uretsky.
Real time. And once the car is offline in the gray, you're not going to get it back. And then once it leaves the racetrack and hits that wet grass, that red Georgia clay, it is gone. It is going to actually, to the driver, feel like it accelerates. Don't ask me how I know that. I don't really want to admit that fact, but yeah, been there, done that. And best news is Moise Uretsky climbing in that AMR rapid response vehicle. He'll be taken to the medical center to be checked out, but he climbs in on his own, and that is good news.
It certainly is, because that was a very heavy impact. I mean, that tyre wall there that is separated from the main tyre wall that's up against the concrete barrier on the left-hand side of the racetrack, that when he hit that initial tyre bundle of tyres, that would have dissipated a lot of the energy. It was then carried through that and into the main barrier that is alongside the barriers there, but still a very scary incident there. And look, there's no way he just wasn't expecting. You don't expect somebody to making a pass on you there, because it was. Dan Goldberg has done a lot of multi-class racing. He should have known, and I think he should have. You just got to be patient through there. We've seen the leaders earlier on when they were passing the slower cars. I don't think they made any passes at that point on the racetrack, and it's going to cost you 2 or 3 seconds of lap time, but it's going to be the same for the guys that are behind you as well. They're not going to be able to pass you. So I think that was a bit bold there from Dan Goldberg, to be perfectly honest. And
it's so difficult as the driver giving chase. You see second and third up in front of you, and they're escaping away a little bit, and you're thinking, I think I can get this in there and get through. I don't want to let them get that next 2 or 3 seconds, like you said, Jeremy. But the door was closing there, and like I said, it'll be interesting to see the incident involving the 73 and 44 under review, it says on our timing screen. So they will look at that closely and determine whether there'll be a penalty assigned to Dan Goldberg.
Yeah, I mean, those two cars were, when they made contact, they were absolutely side by side. But Dan Goldberg in the LMP3 car, number 73 car, I mean, he just accelerated alongside. He's got much more grunt, much more horsepower in that prototype car. He was able to jump alongside Uretsky, but he has to realize that Uretsky, he's already on the limit there going through that corner, and Uretsky cannot deviate from his chosen line once he's picked that to go into that sweeping corner.
All right, we'll leave this to race control to sort out, but let's talk about this. Let's talk championships now, all right? So let's talk LMP3 first. Your championship leader leading right now, he's got a very hungry young Jagger Jones behind him. And if indeed race control decides that there should be a penalty on Dan Goldberg, second in the championship is going to be doing a drive-through penalty. Does the team call Bijoy Garg and say, second place could be good enough today? Don't get greedy. Don't risk it for the guy behind you that has 0 to lose. Before you answer that one, I'm also going to take you back to GSX, where second on the racetrack, Moise Uretsky has been removed from competition, and that has put championship leader Francis Seldorf on the rear bumper of Carrazzo. And for Seldorf, he's got a little bigger lead in his championship, so how aggressive is he going to be with a 230-point lead trying to get past Carrazzo, who once again kind of in the same boat as Jagger Jones? He has nothing to lose. He needs to finish in front of Seldorf to stay in this championship. So go back to LMP3. What does Bijoy Garg do?
Okay, so we start with LMP3. Yep. Right, in LMP3, Bijoy Garg, he's a racing driver. He's going to want to win this race. But I think he's going to, I mean, we saw before this full course caution how much he wanted to defend that lead, because every opportunity he had, he was diving to the inside to make sure there's no way through on the inside for Jagger Jones. So he had all the bases covered there. Now, with his rival, he's still ahead of his championship rival. He's ahead in points. He's ahead of his rival on the road. He would love to have a second car in between them. But if Jagger Jones gets a good restart and gets alongside him, that's where Bijoy Garg has to say, okay.
What if Dan Goldberg gets a penalty and has to serve a drive-through that's going to drop into the back of the field? What do you do then?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really change it. He still wants to win the race.
No, I get that.
He's going to be ahead of him in any case.
Right.
If the number 73 car gets a penalty, goes farther back in the field, even better. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
But that won't be a factor in his thinking at all.
GSX.
The GSX, yeah, that's certainly bad news for Sebastian Carrazzo, because he wanted as many cars as possible in between himself and the championship leader. Sebastian Carrazzo comes into this race behind in points and significantly behind as well. So he needed 4 or 5 cars in between himself and Francis Seldorf, the championship leader, at the end of this race. If he that was the most desirable option, or most desirable outcome for Francis Seldorf.
We'll have to see how it plays out. Now, there is no pass around. That note on the bottom of the timing screen.
Nope.
So they will restart just like this. We got 2 LMP3 cars, then the GSX leader, and then the 73 of Dan Goldberg. Penalties are never announced until you go back to green flag racing. So we won't know about a potential penalty on the 73 until after we go back to green. And so you've got Dan Goldberg there, who's separating Carrazzo and Seldorf in that yellow Turner Motorsport BMW.
I think we will have the class split though, won't we, before we go back to green? I mean, there's still a lot of cleanup to be done down there in that turn 4 area of the racetrack. But I think the LMP3 cars will all go ahead of the GSXs, because the LMP3 cars, even the slower ones, are a lot quicker than the GSX cars. So I think we do have what they call the class split. The LMP3 cars will go ahead of all of the GSXs, but other than that, there's no change required, because the leader in GSX had been lapped. All of the GSX cars had been lapped once by the overall LMP3 leader.
The difference between the pass around and the wave by.
Yes. Right. So, okay, get complicated. But basically, the class split, though, would put the LMP3 cars split, ahead of the GSX cars. And I think that's what we'll get before we go back to green, but we're quite a long way from that right now. But that was certainly a really interesting opening stanza of this race, with Jagger Jones having lost the lead and then trying to get it back again. He's got a quick car. I mean, they're very closely matched, those two. Jagger Jones briefly did set the fastest lap of the race. That was on lap 4, but next time around, Bijoy Garg took that back again. The fastest lap then so far has been a 1:17.5, and that compares to the pole time this morning, which is a 1:25.0, so full 8 seconds faster in these dry conditions this afternoon.
Looking at Moise Uretsky's Porsche out, that car, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm thinking its racing tomorrow is questionable.
Yeah, no, it won't be. Not that car. Yeah. He does have another car in the pack, because he's also driving in the Michelin Pilot Challenge car in a different but identical car. So he might. I mean, he's not going for this championship. He already missed a couple of rounds of this championship, so unlikely he will take the start in that car or either car, I think, for this race tomorrow. But he's still, assuming he's feeling okay, and that was a really scary incident that he suffered there. But assuming he's feeling okay, I'm sure he will drive the other Porsche in that accelerating performance stable. and run it along with Michael Cooper, who's a very talented driver, a very experienced driver as well.
Field under full course caution here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta after the incident between Dan Goldberg in his LMP3 number 73 and the number 44 GSX entry of Moise Uretsky as they headed into turn 4. The S's, those diving S's that lead you down to turn 5. So extensive wall repairs going on there. I hope to get back to green here shortly. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you. Lights out on the BMW safety car, so we should be going green this time by. We've asked a lot of questions during this full course yellow. We're about to find out answers here, Jeremy, so we'll have to see how that battle goes in both of the classes because we talk about the championship implications there, and it'll be interesting to see if there is going to be a penalty handed down to Dan Goldberg for the contact with Uretsky there in the S's. As I said, penalties never handed down until after we go back to green, so we'll find that out shortly. Should be about 19 minutes, maybe 18 and a half minutes to go, I would think, before we go back to green or when we go back to green, and it is all on. Something else you said, though, you were talking about the fastest lap. That is going to be important. What was the fast lap in qualifying this morning?
Yeah, 25, 1 minute 25.0. So whoever sets the fastest lap in, it's the grid for race 2 is set either by each driver's second fastest lap set in qualifying that was this morning or the best lap during the race. Well, with dry conditions now, it's going to be today, and right now that will fall in favor of Bejoy Garg, who leads this race.
You would think that it would. Up and out of 10B, back to yellow. The yellow flag flies again. Full course yellow, and this is always scary because the field's all jacked up, ready to go. And if you don't see that flag or get the call, and you're a little bit further back and get that big accordion effect, and it looks like the field managed to survive that. Debris, we're being told.
Yeah, and I'm surprised we haven't had a class split because the LMP3 cars, they're a lot faster than GSX cars. They're all kind of intermingled back from we've got the two leaders, the LMP3 leaders. Then we have the GSX leader, who is third on the road. Then it's Dan Goldberg. Then it's that train of cars that he'd been battling for second position in GSX to the next up. And behind them are some much faster LMP3 cars. So that's going to get pretty dicey in the first.
Yeah, so there was no class split. And I'm just looking at the safety officials. The call was for debris, and we got to this shot, and I saw no debris. Perhaps they got it picked up and thrown in the back of the truck. But what I did see was that safety official standing there dragging his feet back and forth across the surface. He's trying to ascertain if there's any fluid down on the racetrack. See, right here doing the same thing. Obviously some type of a call from a corner worker or whatever that perhaps there was debris as in the form of fluid coming out of one of the cars. They want to get that checked out and make sure that the track is safe to race on. They're going to look. There's another safety vehicle right now. That safety vehicle certainly has a container of oil dry on the back of it. We'll see if they apply any of it here, and I hope they don't, because if they apply it, it's going to take some time to then get this cleaned up. That truck didn't pull away, and that's not particularly good news.
No, it isn't, is it? What have we got now? 16 minutes to go, so it's going to be certainly another several minutes before we get back to green flag racing.
So I see the lights of the safety vehicle under the Motul signage back there. They're looking for fluid back there as well. Somebody's called something in, whether it was another driver saying, hey, we've got a problem in front of me, or a corner worker saw it or smelled something and said, hey, we need to check this out before we go back. And for the drivers in the cars who got ready to go, the lights were out, here we go, here we go, here we go. No.
Yeah, and it was a last-minute call, wasn't it? The leaders were already accelerating coming into turn 12, and it was a bit dodgy. I mean, Jagger Jones got kind of caught out initially because he went past.
Yeah, he pulled the trigger. Garg saw it. He didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
So we were lucky to get away with that one, I think, quite frankly. That was a bit dodgy.
There must be something down.
Yeah. And that's some oil dry being put down there and swept up by that safety vehicle.
And look, Todd Snyder the race director here, is going to look at that and say, how much time will it take to clean this up? Well, first of all, is there fluid?
Yeah.
Second of all, is it raceable? And if the answer is no, all right, let's get it cleaned up. The sooner we act, the sooner we clean it up, the sooner we can go back to racing. So let's do this and do it right now. And that was a good call to just say, hey, we're not going back green. We're going to get this taken care of so that when we do go back, hopefully we can run it all the way to the checkered without a problem because of this.
Yeah, absolutely right. So safety first is always the course of action the IMSA officials will take, and the chief steward there, Todd Snyder. We've got the blower now blowing away that oil dry debris that has been left from the safety truck. So doing a really, really good job here of keep getting this track in a clean and raceable position as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Well, here's my concern. My concern is if indeed there's fluid down and we didn't see a car pull off, that car is still out there.
Yeah.
And so the question is, where did the fluid come from? Unless it came from, I don't know where they brought in the crash car of Moise Uretsky.
They wouldn't have taken it.
I can't imagine they would have taken it all the way around the racetrack. I would think it would have come off at turn 5 or one of the other exits that you can take as a safety vehicle here. So I wouldn't think it would come from them. So again, my concern would be, okay, where did it come from? The oil dry truck has now left the racing surface though. So hopefully we can get back to racing here very shortly.
Yeah, maybe one more lap and get back to green. The safety car light's still on right now, of course, and because they're coming towards the end of this lap. And this is 16 laps completed now. We've had 6 laps behind the safety car. Extended it for at least 2 laps because of that debris on the racetrack.
All right, let's see if the lights go out once the field is past start-finish this time. That would be good news. Most of the safety vehicles seem to be leaving the racetrack there on the back straightaway where we had the fluid down. They're not off yet, but you're going to get the field passed before you turn them off. Great crowd this weekend. Motul Petit Le Mans weekend at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Always well-attended. Fans on the hill, under the trees, in their seats. You're going to want to stand up and get close to the fence for this one, I can tell you. I just want to sing Tiny Bubbles when I see that. Yeah, I know you prefer that I don't, Jeremy, but we got the bubble machines out. We've got Halloween decorations out. It's me, how I feel sometimes in the morning when I wake up. Skeleton there. Field down through the S's now where the incident happened, and the safety team doing a great job. The team here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta to get barriers back in place. Lights out now on the safety car. It's time to go. And you hope you kept your brakes and your tires all heated up. And a lot of the heat in the tire and that energy you get in the tire comes from brakes here on these laps when you're behind the safety car. Getting the heat in the brake, which puts heat in the wheel, which puts then heat in the tire, increases the tire pressure with the heat.
Yeah, it gets these tires to the optimal working conditions, pressures and temperature. And the drivers will be working hard at that right now to build that heat back in. So when they get back to green, they can absolutely get on the full throttle instantly and know they're going to have full retardation for the brakes as well. The first time they have to jump on them, which will be at the top of the hill in turn 3, because it'll be flat out through coming across to take the start through turn 12. Turn 1, I think, will be pretty much flat out on that restart lap as well. And then he'll be jumping on the brakes at the top of the hill. But Jagger Jones here, he's going to be looking to get a jump on Bejoy Garg.
Up and over the hill and down we race to turn 12, looking for the green flag. It's out. We're racing once again at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Just over 11 minutes to go. Championships on the line. One more event in the season. Field a little mixed up on this full course yellow. No class split, so we do indeed have prototypes mixed up with the GSX class and waiting to see if there's going to be a penalty on Dan Goldberg. That could change the mindset of Bejoy Garg up front, but right now no call has been made. And Jagger Jones in the 87 trying to put that pressure back on, moving back into GSX. Garrazzo still with the lead. He needs to finish in that blue and orange Porsche. He needs to finish in front of Francis Seldorf in that yellow and white and blue Turner Motorsport BMW if he wants to stay in the championship. Through turn 7, the GSX field comes, and it looked to me, Jeremy, on the initial start for Jagger Jones in that black and red number 87, the prototype, as they dive down into the brake zone for turn 10 on the initial start. Took a lap or two longer for that car to come to life. We'll have to see if it happens here on the restart as well in a car that has
Kirby,
stalled.
the 4th place car, has come to a halt down the exit of turn 7. Well, we're certainly going to bring us a full course caution unless he can get the car out of the way. These cars do have starters, so we should be able to restart that car. Well, that's a really good restart lap there for Bujoy Garg.
Great job by Kirby to get the car over to driver's right. I wish he could have gotten it into the cut there. This is going to be a challenge for race control as well. I don't know that you can safely leave him there for 9.5 minutes to go. The field hasn't gone past him yet. Driver's right, and they may look at it and say the field is so strung out that once the last car goes by, do they have time to safely leap out there, grab him, and just pull him backwards into the cut?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen probably. But it's odd that he can't move that car out of the way. I mean, it doesn't seem to be any damage to the car. It's just come to a halt. Maybe he's broken. I mean, I wouldn't imagine he's broken a drive shaft. I mean, it's very soon out of the corner there at turn 7. That's a strong acceleration zone normally for these cars.
And you're going to push your driver anyway if you're the crew chief, the driver coach for Jagger Jones, but you're going to push him really hard right now because you know that car is stalled out there. Hey, buddy, if you're going to get this done, get it done now. Car 73 on the bottom of the timing screen, Jeremy. Car 73, penalty, incident responsibility with the 44. Stop plus 10 seconds. Dan Goldberg already in pit lane. They've gotten that call. He's going to serve that penalty. And for Bujoy Garg, lead this race if you can, win it if you can, but you've got a lot less to risk now, knowing that your nearest competitor in the championship is going to be sitting on pit lane for 10 seconds before he rejoins. I would think that's going to drop him to the back of the field in LMP3.
Yeah. Well behind the field, so 7th position, and with really no chance to make up any ground from there. So very costly for Dan Goldberg, of course, but yeah, for Bujoy Garg, it's really not going to make that much difference, Brian, because he's out in front. He's just concentrating on trying to win another motor race, you know, he seems to have the pace on Jagger Jones at the moment. He's not by much, but he's just gone purple in sector 2 on this lap as Bujoy Garg.
And so up at the top of the screen, you see that the officials have decided to remove Alex Kirby's stricken number 7 and cover it with yellows and just tuck him back in that hole. As long as he can get his steering where it needs to be, they'll drag him out of the way, and as soon as he is clear, flags will drop there in turn 7, and that will once again become a passing zone. Great job by the safety officials to get that car out of the way, and we don't have to go full course yellow to get it done.
That's experienced corner workers there. They've been around this sport a long time, and they did a super job there to get that car out of the way, put themselves not really in harm's way. They were able to get a rope on that car and pull it back before the leaders came past again. So good call there, Brian, and really good work by that safety team. But what a good lap, couple of laps there here Bujoy Garg has put down. He was a bit quicker the last time around than Jagger Jones, and extending his lead again, and now, interestingly, not needing to defend that inside line going into the turns. He's pulling away from Jagger Jones. Put his head down, concentrate on what's ahead of him rather than what's behind him.
And back to GSX, where Sebastian Carrazzo doing what he needs to do. You look at the gap, but behind that blue and orange Porsche to the yellow BMW, championship leader Francis Seldorf. And I've got to believe in the conversation that I had with Gregory Leofuz a little bit earlier, he's going to kind of hold station right there, but different for the car just behind the orange and blue number 19, the 88 of Patrick Wilmot. He's had bad luck this year, and he's in that newer model BMW. We talked about this earlier, the G82. He could care less about Gregory Leofuz in front of him, or Seldorf or anybody else for that matter, he's in this championship. He wants to impress. If he can get by Leofouge, he could be a problem for Seldorf.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Wilmot, he's still got an outside chance of getting his third place in the championship at the end of tomorrow, so that's what he's going to go for. And Angus Rogers doing a nice job in that number 5 car in the 5th position. That's another Porsche, and he's having his best run of the season so far. There's a mistake from the number 82 car. That's Brady Berman sliding a little bit wide there at turn 10, turn 8, coming out of the chicane. That's going to lose him several positions.
Another championship on the line is the championship for the bronze drivers in category. Angus Rogers is a bronze driver. Leading the championship in the bronze category is the 96. Right there, the second of the Turner Motorsports BMWs, but he is running, that's Vin Barletta, running 2 spots behind Angus Rogers right now, and he's going to lose a little bit of his lead in the bronze championship if it finishes this way right now. So we'll see if Vin Barletta can find some ponies to catch back up to Rogers there in front of him.
Yeah, but again, Vin's got a pretty good lead coming into he's got 250-point lead coming into this race. So really, second place would be just fine for Vin Barletta. But for Will Rogers there, Angus Rogers, excuse me, he's looking for his first Bronze Cup win of the season, so that would be a really good feather in his cap if he was able to pull it off. New fastest lap in the race on the previous lap by Bijoy Garg. Last time around, though, it was Jagger Jones who reset the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 17.184 for the second place car.
Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you for VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. It's round Atlanta from, or round 11, I should say, from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The battle up front for the overall win. The win in LMP3 continues, and right now, Bijoy Garg, traffic working his way. Jones had to go offline, held up just a little bit by the GSX car there in turn 6, and that has given Garg a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
And now, though, Garg's going to catch traffic down at the apex of 12. What can Jones do with it? He's going to get the advantage. He's got a run. Will he have a run into turn 1? Garg with a bit of defense. And this is where traffic does. It works for you sometimes and against the other. And I raced against Jagger's dad, PJ, and I got to feel that the genes have been passed down, and he is hungry. He will strike if he gets an opportunity.
Yeah, there was almost Duquesne's width there on the inside of Ligier going to turn 1, but Jagger, I think wisely not going for that one. He's going to have more opportunities as there's a lot more traffic that they will negotiate over the last 2 or 3 laps of this race. But Joy now, he's once again looking in his mirrors and trying to defend that lead.
Jagger Jones with a great job there. He paused just a little bit when Garg got balked, and so now he may have a run, but this is the answer to how hard are you going to defend. Garg defending aggressively to the point that, oh, big hit there. He pushes Jagger Jones into the 82. The officials are going to look at that. Garg moving back and forth, and I think you might be able to call a block on that. Again, you got to think the bigger picture, and I'm not sure that's going on right now.
No.
Full course yellow.
Yeah, caution is out. That's going to the race is going to finish under caution now, and that's a really again a heavy impact there for Brady Berman. He was minding his own business there.
Yeah, he was.
In that trade-centric Aston Martin. He was running in the just outside the top 2. We're on about 10th position, 9th to 10th position. Let's have a look at these two.
He moves. Jagger moves to the inside. Jagger hadn't cleared the Aston Martin, but I also believe the 3 was coming back over a little bit. That's a move in response. Yeah, here's a look at it. Jagger moves the inside, and
Jagger was already there when Bijoy Garg was moving to his left. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to be a penalty for number 3 car that's going to take him out of the lead of this race. Because Brady Berman there, who's completely minding his own business. There's plenty of room between those 2 cars that Jagger Jones goes into, and then that gap diminishes when Bijoy Garg moves to his left to try and defend that position, but too late, in my opinion. And look, I'm not a race control, I'm not a chief steward, thankfully, but from my perspective, he's going to be lucky if he gets away with that one. And Brady Berman is the innocent victim there, completely minding his own business, and he just gets punched off the racetrack, and that's a heavy, heavy impact for that number 82 Van der Steur Racing Aston Martin. Good to see that Brady's out of the car. Okay, he will not be a happy bunny, I can tell you, quite rightly so, and just great to see he's okay, because he's doing at that point in the racetrack 130 or 40 or 50 miles an hour and driving along in a straight line, then he gets punted off, and he's great to see him smiling about it.
I guarantee you I wouldn't have a smile on my face. No, and this is going to be interesting to see what the officials have to say. I was actually going to comment on the defensive posture of the three on the run between turns 5 and 6 that lap. I felt like there were some moves in response that were going on there. So the officials, I'm sure, going to take a close look at this. But let's just play a couple of what-ifs. If the 3-car did end up with a penalty, that would move him to the back of the LMP3 field behind Dan Goldberg.
Yeah, it would. And that would be... Back that would be what, 6th and 7th position, which is only a 10-point swing between 6th and 7th, assuming the penalty isn't more than that, of course, because that was a pretty egregious move. But 10 point, bring him 10 points closer. The gap was coming into this race just 90 points, so that would make it 80 going into the final race tomorrow. But again, that's all conjecture. It's under review from race control, that incident between number 87 and 82. Well, yeah, well, it should be number 3, 87 and 82 is what I should say, I'm presuming. Because number 87 car, he did absolutely nothing wrong. And there was, at the point he made the move to the left of the race leader, car number 3, there was plenty of room between the Aston Martin and the race leader. Then that gap was cut down.
Checkered flag is out, and the way they finish on the racetrack right now, Bajari Garg crossed the line first, followed by Jagger Jones, then Courtney Crone.
Hey, what I can tell you for sure is Sebastian Carrazzo won GSX.
I was going to say, there are a couple of things I am positive of. We can speculate all we want about LMP3, but Sebastian Carrazzo does himself some good in his championship hunt in GSX by finishing in front of Francis Seldorf. So Porsche in front of BMW, that's going to help Porsche in the Manufacturers Championship. Yep. And it's going to give 30 points to Carrazzo in his fight to close down on Seldorf in the championship at GSX. Yeah,
for the manufacturer, I think BMW's pretty much got a lock on the championship for GSX, but in the drivers, not quite the case. I don't think second place is quite enough for Francis Seldorf. I'll have to figure that one out in a moment or two. But for Sebastian Carrazzo, finally his first win of the season. I mean, he started off, he had a problem in the very first race of the season, and then after that he had 4 podium finishes in a row, 2 seconds and 2 thirds. Also had a third last time out at VIR, but this is his first win of the season. Couldn't have come at a better time for Sebastian Carrazzo. That was a perfect performance today by the Puerto Rican. He's qualified a car on pole position, led entirely the entirety of this race.
Field behind the safety car, not the way you want to see a race in, but we saw great action. Wow, that was quite the stiff arm there. A little football game going on. We saw stiff arms on the racetrack as well. Hard-fought action in VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. It's what we've come to expect all season long, but guess what? The season is not over with. One more race to go. Round 12, the final round is tomorrow, and champions will be crowned. Make sure you don't miss it. VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Road Atlanta.